Welcome back to another video. In today's December Bullet Madness, we are going to be comparing the Nozzler Accubond to the Barnes LRX, the Barnes TTSX versus the Nozzler Ballistic Tip. We will be comparing them to each other. We're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses, and then it's your job to vote for which one you want to move on. Now, before I go talk about the bullets, I just wanted to show you the results of the first round. So obviously the Accubond won and the LRX, so the LRX, Accubond LRX are versus each other. The TTSX versus Ballistic Tip, and then moving down, the VLD Burger actually beat out the ELDX, barely. That was by far the closest match. And then the Swift Bullet also beat out the Terminal Ascent. The Accubond Long Range obviously beat out the Tip Game King. And then the Partition beat out the Interlock. So that's what's coming up in the next couple days. Let's start with the Nozzler Accubond. Let's just talk about its strengths and its weaknesses. So one, this is a bonded bullet. And so what that means is that it's going to hold up together fairly pretty well. Much better than a standard cup and core bullet. Some of the other strong attributes of this bullet, Nozzler just mentions it. It has a high ballistic coefficient, which, yeah, it's pretty good. Devastating terminal performance, yep. Deep penetration, so yeah. This bullet will also penetrate a bit better than your standard cup and core bullet as well. That's just what's going to happen when it's a stronger bullet. And what are the weaknesses for this specific bullet? Well, it's not going to expand very well if it's going below 2,000 feet per second. So I think this bullet is really meant for well, it really excels in Magnum cartridges. And if you're shooting really long distance, it's not going to open up very well if your bullet's not going 2,000 feet per second. Or, as it says, optimal performance, 1,800 feet per second. So those are kind of the weaknesses for it, is there's a chance it won't open up as well as it should if it's not going fast enough. Now let's go ahead and look at our Barnes LRX. This is an all copper bullet. So what is it really good at? Well, penetration. I don't think there's any other bullet that's going to penetrate as well. It even beats the bonded bullets. And these LRXs do have a higher BC than the other copper bullets. And interesting enough, when you compare it to the Accubond, in some cases, the Accubond will actually have a higher BC than the LRX. So these copper bullets still are lower BC across the board usually when you compare them to the higher BC lead bullets. But they're going to have a lot better penetration, and up close they're going to hold together much better than your high BC cup and core bullets. So another nice thing about this bullet is that it is a very strong, hard bullet, and it's not going to fall apart like other bullets. So let's now talk about its weaknesses. Kind of like the Accubond, but I think it's even a little worse than the Accubond, is it's not going to open up very well if it's going slow or it's out at really long distance. I mean, it's still going to penetrate extremely well, but it's not going to expand very well at slow velocities. So, which one do you think should move on? Should it be the Accubond or the LRX? Now, in previous videos, I never really made my vote. This one's really hard. These are probably two of my favorite bullets, but I would probably have to pick the Accubond. Now let's compare the Barnes TTSX bullet to the Nozzler Ballistic Tip. Let's start with the Barnes. Okay, This is much similar to the LRX, just not as high of a BC bullet. And some people, I'm not sure, I haven't tested this out, but some people think that the TTSX is a little bit tougher than the LRX, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. The Barnes is a very tough bullet. It's going to penetrate extremely well. The BC is pretty standard. It's not really high, but it's not really low either. Issues with this bullet is it's not much of a long distance bullet if you're really wanting it to expand well, and you really do want higher velocities when shooting this bullet, just like the LRX. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about the Nozzler Ballistic Tip. This is just your standard cup and core bullet. There's nothing wrong with these bullets. A lot of people use them for deer and other animals, and they work. But some of the downsides to a cup and core bullet is that the penetration isn't great, and it's likely that the bullet will fall apart and break up into a lot of little pieces, and that the lead core will separate from the jacket. But some of the nicer things about this bullet compared to the TTSX is it's going to have a higher BC. So if you're going to be shooting out farther distances or shooting a cartridge that's not going as fast as, say, like a Magnum, you might want this bullet. So between these bullets, which one's going to be your vote? The Barnes TTSX or the Nozzler Ballistic Tip? Again, my vote, I'm going to have to go with the TTSX. I think it's just an all-around better bullet.